So BYJU'S got their valuation slashed again. And this is the third time that this is happening, and the second time that it's happening at the hands of one of their investors, Blackrock. So last time in October of 2022, Blackrock slashed their valuation to $11.5 billion, and now they're lowering it even further to $8.4 billion. And I have to imagine that Baiju Ravindran is looking a little bit like this right now. But it is worth noting that BlackRock doesn't own a substantial stake in BYJU'S, less than 1%. So this isn't really setting off the same kinds of alarm bells that Prosus's devaluation did back in November of 2022. Now, in other BYJU'S news, and this is also really bad for the company, they were in talks to restructure their loan. And this loan is worth $1.2 billion. It's a massive loan. But those talks with their lenders have fallen through now, as their lenders are actually taking BYJU'S to court. They've accused BYJU'S of hiding $500 million that they had raised. Now, BYJU'S, of course, is denying these allegations. According to them, they're not guilty of anything. They didn't hide any money whatsoever. But of course, now because these talks have fallen through, they have to go to each one of these lenders individually to renegotiate the terms of their loan. And here's the thing, BYJU'S needs to make an interest payment on this loan very, very soon, by June 5th. And they're expecting a large capital infusion into the company soon so that they can make that interest payment happen. In fact, by the time you're watching this video, that cash infusion may have already happened. But anyways, let's move on to the next news item now, because EX-SaaS UNICORN Gupshup has seen their valuation slashed to $957 million by one of their investors, Fidelity. Just enough to make headlines. So Gupshup is a conversational messaging platform for businesses, and they were last valued at $1.4 billion during their unicorn making series F round, worth $100 million in April of 2021. Now, the reason for this slashing of their valuation is that they recorded a decline in their net profits of about 24% year on year to 39.9 crore rupees. And this is despite the fact that their operating revenue jumped by 1.5x to 1,132 crore rupees. All right, next up, you guys showed an amazing response to my request last week to fill out a Google form where you would share information about the challenges or questions that you have around Indian startup and business compliance, taxation, regulations, all of that stuff. We got more than 400 responses to that Google form, which was honestly pretty overwhelming and unexpected. And the biggest insight that I gained and the biggest surprise that I saw in that Google form was that many of you guys watching these videos, and especially the folks that actually went to fill out that form, are startup founders yourselves. I guess I kind of expected that most of the people filling the form would be startup enthusiasts or people who are planning to start up someday but haven't quite done it yet. But in fact, most of the people who filled out the form are active startup founders. And so with that in mind, I have a very special Backstage with Millionaires announcement. We are launching a course. So this is going to be a comprehensive, in-depth course with the sole intent of simplifying and making sense of the confusing and complicated landscape of Indian business compliance. Now, I will say here that this course is not going to be for everybody. So it's going to be specifically geared towards startup founders who are actively building their businesses today, or alternatively, people who are planning on starting up in the next couple of years in the near term. So if you're just a startup enthusiast and you're not actually planning to get into business someday, then this probably won't be for you. Now, in order to make this course a reality, over the last couple of months, we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to team up with experienced CAs and lawyers who are going to be teaching the sessions of this course. And these will be exclusive live sessions on topics like, for example, the different kinds of companies in India, the process of company incorporation, how to protect your IP rights, founders agreements, ESOPs, raising funds, valuation and dilution, direct and indirect taxation, labor laws, mandatory compliances, and more. Now, again, this is going to be a live course, and it's going to be spread over 4 weeks in the month of July. There will also be doubt clearing sessions with the instructors in case you need any more clarity on the topics being discussed in the course. But of course, because it is live, we're going to have to cap the number of participants, and we've set that cap at 50. So if you're an active startup founder or you're planning on starting up someday in the near term and you want to get a head start on stuff like compliances, taxation, all of that kind of stuff, then you can actually find a link to the wait list in the description of this video. It's going to be first come, first serve, and it's also going to be remote friendly. So all of these sessions will be happening online. It's not going to be an in-person course, so you don't need to be located here in Bengaluru. And also, we'll get back to you very soon on pricing and specific dates as well. All right, next up, in case you didn't know, I am long on India because 40 years ago, India looked like a completely different country. Poverty has gone down immensely, GDP per capita has been trending upwards, overall unemployment has been shrinking since 2005, internet penetration is going way up, FDI has been trending up since the early 90s, and today, India looks like this. And also this. And this. And also this. India is getting better. It's improving. And yeah, this takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. There are still definitely problems in this country. Infrastructure still seems to be lagging behind. Corruption is still a massive problem, and pollution seems to be getting worse. But I still have a lot of faith in this country, which leads me to my next news item. India's GDP grew 6.1% in Q4 of FY23, and this was way ahead of the estimates made by economists and the RBI, and for the full year, India's GDP grew 7.2%, which again beat the central bank's forecast. In other words, India's economy is growing at a surprising pace. And this is actually pretty good news for startups because right now we're still in this funding winter situation. It's really hard to raise external capital. And not only that, but it seems like we might be at the beginning of a global recession. And so things would be really, really difficult for Indian startups if India's GDP was also trending downward. But the fact that that's not the case and it's actually going above estimates made by the RBI and economists means that even though things aren't great right now, it might be a little bit easier to sell to consumers and also businesses if you're B2B than predicted. All right, next up, it looks like Gift City is actually going to happen after 16 years. Now, this popped up on my radar thanks to a Twitter account called FinFlow. If you're not already following these guys, definitely do check them out. It's a great account. And they wrote that everyone thought Gift City was a failure and a complete waste of money. Well, they actually did make it happen. And for those of you guys who are out of the loop, Gift City is an SEZ, a special economic zone, and it's on the outskirts of Ahmedabad. Now, they've imagined this city to be a global financial center like New York or London or Hong Kong or Singapore, and you can see that from these renders from 2013. And this video is, of course, delightful, by the way. I'm just going to keep it on screen here for your enjoyment, but GIFT actually stands for Gujarat International Finance Tech City. Now, the idea for GIFT began all the way back in 2007 when it was announced by the government of Gujarat, and here's what it looks like now. This is 16 years in the making, and get this, in 2022, GIFT City did 12,000 crore rupees worth of exports. There's also 13,000 crore rupees worth in residential projects going up in the city right now, and international universities are setting up campuses in the city too. There's approximately 20,000 employees working at Gift City right now, including 5,000 at IFSC, and IFSC, by the way, stands for International Financial Services Center, which is a special financial jurisdiction within the country which allows foreign currency transactions to be conducted without capital control restrictions. As many as 140 entities have registered at IFSC in FY23, including major financial companies like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, and Deutsche Bank. All right, next up, a couple of quick news items here. Nearly 50% of the Indian companies in SoftBank's portfolio are now break even or close to it. So Bank of America said in a note that the startups in SoftBank's India portfolio did a good job in cutting costs in the last 6 to 9 months, but also that these startups have experienced reductions in growth rates of between 15 and 30%. It's also worth noting that around 94% of SoftBank's portfolio companies globally have at least 12 months of cash runway. All right, next up, in case you haven't heard, jute is back. The world is moving away from plastic shopping bags and single-use plastics in general, and Indian jute seems to be a perfect replacement here, which is why Walmart, IKEA, Britain's biggest retailer Tesco, German retailer Aldi, and French hypermarket chain Anyways, all of these companies are buying jute like crazy. And what does this mean financially? Well, India exported jute bags worth about 990 crore rupees. That's about $120 million in FY23, growing by more than 50% from FY22. All right, next up, it looks like Indian electric two-wheelers are going to be getting a little bit more expensive because FAME 2 subsidies are getting cut. The decision to slash subsidies was announced by the Minister of Heavy Industries and specifically targeted subsidies provided to buyers. So under FAME 2 in this specific category, max subsidies used to be 40%. Now they're going down to 15%, and companies like Ola Electric, Ather, and Matter are all going to be hiking their prices as a result. One of the few companies, though, that isn't going to be hiking their prices is Hero Electric. According to the CEO of Hero Electric, this sudden reduction may lead to a major decline in EV adoption, and a gradual transition would have been ideal for India to reach the global benchmark of 20% EV adoption. Currently, it's at just 4.9%, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. It doesn't seem likely that India is going to come close to that global benchmark in the near term. And lastly, before we move into the funding news, what would a week of Indian startups be without an update on the situation with Ashnir Grover? So he had filed a request to quash the FIR that was filed against him by BharatPe, and the Delhi High Court has rejected that request. This is also happening just a couple of days after Ashnir deleted several tweets that were directed towards BharatPe and also its chairman, Rajneesh Kumar. All right, next, let's move on to some funding news here. $182 million have been raised across India's entire startup ecosystem this week. Here's what that looks like in context. This is week 8 of the quarter. And now the leader this week was actually Adamberg. They raised $86 million in their Series C round. Very cool company. I've been meaning to buy one of their fans for a long time. Then there's Pixel raising $36 million in their Series B. Huge congratulations, by the way, to the team over at Pixel. I'm sure that this Series B round is going to help you guys in achieving your goals when it comes to creating a health monitor for the planet Earth. If you guys haven't researched what they're doing over at Pixel, I would definitely recommend heading over to their website. It's pretty mind-blowing, and we're actually going to be posting a podcast episode, which I did with the founder of Pixel, Awais Ahmed, and I'm really excited for you guys to check it out. It'll probably be going live the week after this coming week, so look forward to that. And then I also wanted to highlight YOLO, which is making banking cool for Gen Zers. That's their mission. They're building a payments and investing app for teens with the goal of facilitating online and offline payments through UPI, the YOLO app, and a physical YOLO card through RuPay. And I just wanted to say, if anyone from the YOLO team is watching, that YOLO is a cool name, right? And when I was in high school, everyone was saying YOLO, so it's very fellow kids. Not sure if the kids are still saying that these days, but I'd highly recommend that you change the icon on the cards specifically. Like if I was a teen and I had to whip that card out in a store, I'd definitely be checking over my shoulder to make sure that nobody's looking at it when I tap to pay. So just a thought, feel free to disregard that if you're confident about that icon, but I would recommend that you change it. Anyways, that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and I will see you in the next one.